Hi, I'm Julie Haymaker, and I'm going to teach you how to make this little whimsical pendant. Uh, it is the first class that I'm going to be teaching using the cone mold, and it's a beginner level class or all level class. What I think is unique about this little pendant is using the little glass globe and then making these simple little beads with the twist, with my twist bead technique. So, and this is just simple stringing technique. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through our kit. So let's get started. You'll have your kit, and it'll come with, you'll have extras, but it'll come with a sheet, a half sheet of the pre-cuts that were designed especially to work really well in the cone mold. And we're going to be using this large one and there's one fun one with the paddles. I have these little paddles. We're going to be using those on this. And then in your kit, you will have a little template if you want to make the twist beads in the future. And then you'll have your link and password. And you probably already saw this or you wouldn't be watching the video. So these are the rest of the things that are in your kit. You have this gorgeous silk ribbon. And this is hand dyed to that soft ivory color. And then you have your little findings in there and your leaf beads. So these are all like little unique findings and that little unique teardrop globe. And then 8-pound fire line, and then a big eye needle. You can use whatever needle you want to, but I like the disposable big eyes. So that's what's in our kit. I'll set that aside, and then I'm going to talk about the things that you need to supply. I'm going to be showing you ink. So the basic set that I like for this one here is this little ombre set. I don't think I'll be using the purples in it, but I'll be using these blues and greens in it. And then I have sponge applicators for that to put them on. I'm going to showcase how to do that. So you're going to need that. And then I'm going to put in some colored pencil. Now I'm also going to show you some optional things you might use by bringing in some pigment white ink and using a stencil on the piece. So that's an option if you have that. So I'm going to be showing that as well, but that's optional. If you just have basics, even if you just have colored pencils and you're just doing colored pencils, that's fine. I'm just going to showcase these for starters and then the optional stencils. And then you're going to need the heat gun to heat our beads and, of course, the red cone mold. It comes in 2 parts, but we're only going to be using the cone top. We're not going to be using the witch hat top on this. So just these 2 pieces of it. So let's get started. The first thing I have done is take the sleeve off of my template, and I'm going to punch this largest bead out. And you are not stuck with just using this one. If you wanted to choose one of the smaller ones, that's fine. So these are sanded and shiny, meaning shiny on one side and sanded on the other. Then I'm going to punch this one out. And these are the 2 I'm going to be using. I'll bring this down farther. And now I have scrap paper. That's why this is stuff that gets, I just use stuff that gets misprinted on my printer. So that's why you're seeing some printing behind there. And I'm going to open this up. And these are your different kind of daubers. You have these little ones that can do nice detail, or you can just hit the edge of this on these bigger round ones. So I'm going to check my colors. There's the nice turquoise. Oops. So this has a little Velcro attachment. And I'm going to chat there. I want to have a little turquoise tip on the end of these. So I'm just being careful that I just hit that section of the ombre. I could use all of it, you know, and then get an ombre effect on this. But I just want to tip this with the turquoise. Then I'm going to come in here with both, see if I can make a blend. So I'm going to turn my piece there. See how I'm getting kind of a blue-green? So I'm putting that in the center, and then I might overlap that with a little bit to get a nice blue-green. So there's that. And then on this one, I'm going to go with the green on the tips. And I'm going to go blue-green in the center. And I won't use any of the purple on this. I'll show you what that looks like. Really like these ombre sets because there isn't any purple beads in there. I could drop a couple purple beads in there if you wanted to add purple from your own collection and just put a few throughout the design to tie that in, or add purple colored pencil, then you know that ties the colors in. So then next I'm going to show you one. I just want to blend that a little bit more if I've got lines there. There. Well, that got there. So to make sure that my ink isn't moist anymore, even though I put that on really lightly, I always blot. See? I don't think, oh, wow, the heat gun's going to heat it up, you know, and dry it, because these inks are made for porous surfaces, and we're using them on non-porous surfaces, which is shrink plastic. See how I got the excess off? And that's how I find that you can use these inks. That's my chair. And these permanent inks on porous surfaces. Always use a permanent ink. So now I'm going to do one where I'm just showing you how I will be adding colored pencils to it. And then on this one, I'm going to show that optional stencil work. But you're going to see here that you can just use colored pencils to add the design. Now this is indigo blue. The colors that I've chosen are chartreuse, a cream, and an indigo blue. But you could choose any colors that go with this. So I'm just coming in here with little dots. Keep this design really simple, with this soft shadowy background of the ink, and then my colored pencils. And I'm on the sanded side. You can put inks on the shiny side. It's a little more difficult because, as I said, these inks are made for porous surfaces. Now, if you used a brand called Stays On, you would have better luck because that ink is specifically made for non-porous surfaces, just like shrink plastic. But I find the colors aren't as rich as I want, so I haven't been that happy with it. So over here, I'm going to come in, I'm going to use this stencil, And I'm going to bring my white ink pad. And this is one of my favorite inks to always have on hand. And I sell this with a little re-inker because it's just one of those pads you use all the time, and to have a re-inker and keep it separate like this keeps it from protected from getting other colors on it. But it will pick up other colors just simply by stamping on things that have other colors on it. So that's why it's nice to have the re-inker to refresh that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line right here and right here and right here, and I'm going to line it up right in this area and do one at a time. So let's see. Come in here, right here, okay? And I keep that lined up on the petal so that it's not a random pattern. There, I don't know if you can see that. There, yeah. And I'm going to do that the same for all 4 of my petals. So stencils can be used just to put little details like this. So this is juxtaposing the real crisp line of a stencil with, but yet, I mean, the real geometric line of it. Even, but yet with the stamp, it does have a soft feel. And then we've got it against a background that was just shading with ink, organically put on, buffed on, and burnishing that. And then we're doing our colored pencils, which are just hand-drawn. So I'm coming in here and putting colored pencils on this. So that's optional. Now I'm going to, come in here with ivory. And that'll be interesting to see how that turns out against, will it show ivory or will it show white? Like that white on white look. And then I'll just come in here with lines. So just really simple look. And then I might just add 3 little dots on each side of this. And these little fins. And like I said, you just use colored pencils that go with your bead colors, but this was indigo blue, chartreuse, and cream. And I might just end the green there so it just doesn't end, that it has a little dot on it. So these will be the 2 that I'm working on. Now I'm going to get my green leaves out, and I have 5 of them. And I'm going to be doing this on the sanded side. And I'm just going to put little dots on them. I want just to have, a little coordinated look. And these are cut out using my gem tones. So this shrink plastic is already pre-tinted in a soft shade, and this happens to be the green. I have it in blue, and I have it in yellow, and I have it in pink, and then green. And the colors are variegated and rather mottled, which makes it perfect to create some really lovely organic finishes. Now, you have an option here to add to these leaf beads. So let's do this. Let's just tip them. That gives our gem tones, you know, we have some control in there as to it just, you know, the gem tones came a certain color, and then once we cut them out, we can add controlled details, and that's what I did. So I will take these, because I colored them. What do? I put them under here to blot them, and nothing needs sealing. This, you know, the shrink plastic, when you shrink it, things kind of embed into it, so it should be just fine. But you can see it kind of picked up some color there. So we're done with our demo. I'm done with my demo of coloring the shrink plastic beads, and we're going to get ready to shrink them. So we're ready to shrink, and what you want to be mindful of is whatever you place down in the bowl, place down. Like if I place the shiny side up against this being the shiny side, when I shrink my bead and see it done, that surface will be shiny. So if it's down, face down in there, it'll be shiny. If I want matte, I put matte down in there, and that surface will be matte, frosted. So you've got to decide what you want to see. I chose these to be shiny. So I'm going to put shiny down, face down, and do the big one. And what I'm going to do on this is, when you have delicate petals like this, and when I mean delicate, they have cutouts in here versus something that is a shape that's more closed. So delicate would be a shape that has these open marks in it, and those are a little more temperamental. So what I do when I'm heating is, you'll notice that I'll keep the heat, I'll let it shrink down, and then as it starts to wiggle and shrivel, I'll keep my heat outside here. They'll be shrinking, but they'll want to follow the heat, so they'll pull away instead of sucking into the center and just touching each other. But I may have to do a little bit of pulling at them in case they look like they want to touch each other. So I'm going to bring my heat gun up here. Its cord is kind of tangled up. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, it doesn't want to come up. Okay. So I'm heating. And about half an inch away. And notice the even motion I'm using. Not teasing it, I'm evenly going about a half inch away. And there it starts to go, and I'm going to individually deal with these leaves. And there, one did pull way over there. And I'm going to turn it off and catch that. And make sure it behaves. I've got these just a little too too close to each other, so I'm pulling apart. And this is just normal on these more delicate beads. And notice you're probably freaked when that one folded over on me. But I caught it right away. I just didn't keep heating. And I just grabbed it and put it back. Now I'm just touching everyone and making sure they're shrunk and adjusted. And I'm going to come into the top and just evenly heat the whole thing. And then just before I shrink these are the delicate ones. I'll even out my beads and then come on down and hold it. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And these are worth it. So just take it in stages like that. And if you see it folding, and that was one of the worst cases of folding that I have seen, and yet I saved it and grabbed it. And the reason I just love these is because then when they're done, you get these wonderful peek throughs. So, and that's on the shiny side. So this one I'm going to also do on the shiny side. And we'll go the same process. Starting to wiggle. Now I'm coming out here and pulling my heat out. So we've got one that wanted to go under. Whoa, little pinwheel. Just watching it. Just hitting areas as I see they need them. Working in stages if I have to. You can always stop heating and pull and adjust things while they're still warm and then reheat. So there we go. And we've got both our adorable little beads. So now I'm going to show you how to do the leaf beads. Flip the mold over, so pin's coming out the back. Take your leaf, put it on the pin, heat it up. It stopped moving on its own accord. I slide it off the pin and I turn it a quarter of a turn and hold it. And it's not, I really can't feel the heat because the little guy is so small that it's not emitting a lot of heat. So that's pretty easy. You just don't want to touch that glide pin. So you want to do all 5 of those. Okay. So we're ready to get started beading, and the first thing we're going to do is take our big eye needle out, or your beading needle if you don't want to use your big eye. And you're going to take your fire line, and this is 8 pounds. And you're going to cut about, you won't need any more than a foot. And so you can use your fire line cutters. And for me, that happens to be what I like to use is an X-Acto knife blade. There. So you can choose to use the needle, or you can choose to not use the needle. And I'm going to not use the needle. Okay, so I'm going to string and create this little rosette, and this is very easy. So what I'm doing, the only thing that I want you to be sure of is that you're either, see how the shiny is right here and it's facing that way. Every time you add to the string, make sure it's either shiny or matte. So I'm just going to say the word shiny and then adding a teardrop. And then shiny facing out. And adding a teardrop. and shiny facing out and adding a teardrop and shiny facing out and adding a teardrop. And shiny facing out and adding a teardrop. Can you hear my little puppies gobbling in the background? Okay, so then I've got that on there, and I am going to put my big eye on. And what I'm going to do is just come around here and double catch everything. Got my tail there. I'm grabbing that, pulling my needle through, and then I can take it off. So doubled up. And my 2 strings have met, and I'm just going to tie a simple knot for starters so that I can pull the whole collection tight. And I've got this nice little rosette. Now I can do a surgeon's knot, which is there crossed over, and then the tail goes around a couple of times, going around again, and I'm tying that tight, and then I'm doing that again. And I have a nice rosette, and I can come in here. You can come in here with your lines and cut. And I've got this sweet little rosette that shows on either side. So I've got my little rosette done, and now I'm going to cut more fire line. And what I've done is, this is about 10 inches. So I unraveled that and I cut about 30 inches. That's more than I need. Okay, I cut that length. And before I put my needle on, I'm going to take one of these pearl blue seed beads, a satin pale blue seed bead, and I strung it on one end of a line, and then I brought my 2 tails together so that it's down here as a stopper bead. Okay, then I brought my 2 tails together, and I'm putting my big eye on my needle. Thread your needle on whatever needle you've chosen. There, I've given myself a little bit of a tail there. And here I have my little stopper bead there. And then I'm going to follow this sequence here. So next is my pearl iridescent bead, galvanized iridescent bead, and this little bone prayer bead, and my gold filigree bead, and my hand-blown globe bead. And there I am. And now I'm just going to do a checkered stack of these chartreuse and these little pearl beads until I have filled the line in the vessel. And I'll just check them to see where I am. About halfway there. Got all those on, and my little, oh, he did go on. Sometimes the little green beads don't like to go on. I think they're check beads versus. So I've got a few extra on there, and we know that we need to take our needle off when when we're taking beads off. So I'm going to take those extra off and put my needle back on. And the reason you want to do that if you're a beginner is because if you keep the needle on the thread and double back through, there's a good chance you'll catch the needle in the middle of the thread and then split the thread. And then you got a little mess on your hands, and then it creates knots, and then you end up cutting and starting over, and you get really frustrated. Okay, so we're right here, and the next wonderful thing we get to do is to put our largest, this is our larger of our two shrink plastic bead on. So cute, okay? And then we can see a little bit of the white and the stenciling I did, the little ivory and the white. And then I'm going to put my filigree flower on. And then next I add this rubber O-ring. And this acts as construction, as a bumper to help things from shifting, because the line is really thin. My fire line is really thin and my hole is big, and I don't want that bead to shift, those beads to shift back and forth. And this keeps them from not doing so. And then next, I'm going to put my rosette on, and I can choose to put the shiny side up or the matte up. So I put the shiny side up. Now, I've included these bugle beads, and the reason why is that if your hole right here, if you've stitched around here and because of how you've shrunk these or something, you've got a bigger hole in here, you'll have shifting too, and your wire will want to slide out of that. And the bugle bead, if you put it in there, let's say if I put this on there, I'm just going to show you. If I put this on there and it slipped into that gap, it also works kind of like an insulator, a little buffer. My hole was so tight that it doesn't need that. So you're going to have to make that call. If you've got a large gap in there on a hole, use your bugle bead. And if it fits in there nicely and snugly and works as a little internal lining, then that's really great, and your little rosette won't slip around. But if your piece is really tight like mine, you're not going to need it. So that's why the bugle beads are in there. And on this one, I needed the bugle bead, this little piece. That all just depends on the nature of how tightly you tied your knots, and the way, your little twisted dagger beads are unique. And so we have that as an option. And those are the little tips that you get in this beginner's class. So then we're going to put our little bronze bead cap on. And our next shrink plastic bead. And then our fancy etched glass bead. And our bronze bead cap. Then next, a gold filigree. And this is because I'm tying in the fact that I did use gold down here, and I want to bring my eye around there. And then I'm going to make like a little saucer sandwich out of this. I'm using another one. So that, see how my eye will move around here with the gold? Little gold, it sees it both, and it's just bringing it around. And then next, I'm adding the little iridescent bead, same thing. repetition of design, bringing my eye around the picture plane. And you can't see it here, but I'm going to make a hanger loop bail out of the seed beads in the same sequence that I've done here. So green and blue. And I'll just guess to the size. That's not going to be enough, and we'll count them when I'm done in case you want to know the exact count. That I've chosen, and you may want yours bigger or shorter, but I'm going to make a choice here once I get these strung on and count to let you know. So how I kind of gauge this is I loop it around and say, oh, yeah, that looks good. In fact, I may take just a couple off, but that's okay because I have to take my needle off anyhow. I'm going to take 3 off. And the reason being is I wanted to end with the green because I started with the green. So let's count how many I used. I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 green and probably 8 blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blue. And this is a little technique we're going to do it. There's several ways to do this, but I'm going to show you how I'm choosing to do this. Pulling things apart under the gold, and I'm splitting my wires, my lines. And I'm pulling one line out and leaving one line on. Okay, so it's right there under the gold. And then I'm re-threading my needle, and I'm going to come down through the iridescent and through the two golds and the prayer bead. And then I can undo my needle and I'll be able to show you what I've done. It looks all tangledy right now, but so now I've got my 2 tails right here meeting. And that's how I'm going to tie this out. Now, if you felt insecure, but this is 8 pounds, and this certainly doesn't weigh 8 pounds, you could take these guys and double up through there. A lot of beaders like to do that if they're using regular beading line. But this is fire line, so it's really, really strong. And meaning 8 pound means, you know, it'll hold something 8 pounds. And this thing at the very most weighs, oh gosh, you know, 1 ounce, 2 ounces at the very, very most. So like before in making knots, just going to make one single one like I did in the rosette and pull everything tight. Make sure there isn't anything weird caught and everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing and nobody's acting out. And once I see that, then I can come in with my surgeon's knot. Now, the reason I don't do the surgeon's knot right away is because if there is some mistake I made, I can take the knot out and go back and fix it. Once I do the surgeon's knot, it's tied tight. So you know my surgeon's knot was a regular knot with this regular knot with the tail wrapped around twice and pulled in here tight. And I do 2 of them. And then you could always drop a drop of, fancy glue, like super new glue on that knot, but this is gonna hold. Now I go in with your favorite cutters. I go in with my X-Acto knife and cut my lines. And that's just me. You use your favorite cutter, but X-Acto knives are really cheap. A fishing, clips, any kind of fire line requires, it's like fishing lines. So it requires something really strong. An X-Acto knife is, I can get in there really tight with it. So there I have this sweet little pendant, and I'm going to come in here with the ribbon. And I'm going to meet the ribbon, double it in half, and take its little tip and run it through here. Got it nice and folded. Now I'm going to take my two tails and run them through here and create this pretty little knot here. And then that also showcases what's happening down here. And there we are done with our little project and our cone mold piece. So that's it looking down on it, and I'll twist those so they're matching the 5 petal. And there, the fire line allows it movability, but it's doubled up and really strong, and there are no gaps in it. And our little O-ring is working really well as a little buffer. So thanks for joining me.